right. I hope you guys can see me. Welcome to the stream today, right? I am going to be introducing, I'm going to be continuing on the stuff I started earlier, which are the stuff around Nextjs, and I welcome everybody to the stream today. All right, so today I am going to, take it further a little bit, right? We're going to just continue the learning of Next.js. That's the goal, right? To try to learn Next.js enough to build something of our own. And yeah, we have two repository that we have been working with, right? We have a Stack Blitz link, and I'm going to show you, right? We have something from Stack Blitz that we have been using. I can always, I'm going to share my screen as well so that you can see my screen. So we have, so definitely we have, we can go outside of this to the dashboard. So we have a particular app on Stack Blitz, and we have another one on our local that we are working with. So the one on the local, I think, yeah, this is the one on the local. So the one on the local uses some dependency, uses arrow icon, uses Tailwind, uses the types from Node because it's a TypeScript project. Then we have obviously Postgres from Vercel. We have auto prefixer, bcrypt, class X, right? We have Next itself, and we are using the version 14.1 of Nextjs, right? That's what we're using. So Stanley, good to see you. Yeah, you were the only last man standing on the last stream. Abosede, good to see you as well. So Next.js is we're using the 14.14, and I'm going to run the app now to see where we currently are. So, and I mean, I also stopped last stream. I used npm, but I decided to want to use pnpm as well because I believe pnpm is a lot more faster. So I'll be running with pnpm to see what we have. So we have a little app that is working. It's not the best, but we have something working, right? And if we go to localhost 30 on our, I think if we go to localhost 30, so here we would see our hub, right? So the thing with Next.js is, again, I don't know if I've said this before now, that anytime your server is ready, right, and it tells you like ready in 19.8 seconds, this compiling that is happening now, this is React happening on the server side thing. So React is happening on the server side there. Why is it not working? Coming? Could it be because of my internet? So this is the other one that we have, right? We have another one here that is a lot more faster to start up. That's so basically this is what we currently have. Basically, this is what we currently have. This is zoomed to like 200, yeah. So, but normally here, this is what we should have. So we have this here, and let's show you all the latest things that we have. So inside of this place, most of the things that are happening is coming from the page.tsx, right? So inside of the page.tsx, right, we have this whole page, right? You can see that we have the main section, and it has a display of flex. This is Tailwind, right? It has like minimum height on the screen, right? I guess my internet is messing me up again. I might have to move to my Mac, depending on if the internet is not stable. So if you can still hear me, just let me know before I decide to switch to Mac completely. Because I feel like this might not really work very well today, but let's hope it works fine. Let's hope it works fine. So we have this main here, we have this div here. The div that is showing this logo, right, is yeah, is this is the logo right here. This is the whole Acme logo right here. And if we inspect this, if you inspect this, and we'll bring the inspection to the, let's dock it to the right. So you would understand that we have what you have the main, right? Then we have a div for the logo. Then we have another div, right, which is going to be our body. And we have the other two divs inside, right? This here and the other one is empty right here. So this is what we currently have here. And in Nextjs, right, the way the routing works is that we have this page in your default, like in your app, in the app route in itself. In the app route in itself, you have what? You have this, there's a default what? There's a default page.tsx, right? And inside of this, inside of this page.tsx, then we also, so inside of the page.tsx is where you have like the page in itself. But if you have a layout, right, that controls everything, the layout will be inside this layout.tsx. So for those who are just joining the stream for the first time, in Next.js, right, this page.tsx and this layout.tsx are the most important, like they're the basic way of doing things here. So all the pages are like powered by this page.tsx. Then this layout is what happens. So if you want to really understand what is going on with if I put something on top of this body now, assume that I put something inside of this body. So you would understand that if I put a H1, then we have Next.js app starter. So inside of the Next.js starter, right, you will see that automatically Next.js starter app would appear in our app. So if you look at this now, Next.js starter app has appeared, right? And that's because of the way, like, you have the layout, then the children inside of the layout, right? These children is your page.tsx. So you don't need to do that yourself. That is being done for you by Next.js in itself internally. So, right, the layout is for the structure of the layout, and that's where we added our global.css, right? The CSS that is generated from our Tailwind, and also we have these fonts coming from Google fonts, but it is using some internal font provisions that Next.js made available to us. So basically, this is the layout, and these children here, right? Anybody who understands the way children prop works in React understands that the content of this page.tsx is now what is these children right here. And that's why we have, all the things that we have right now on the page. So the next thing I'm going to also show you is that right now we have some pages working. For example, now we have a page called login. And so inside of this login page, we have this page.tsx. So for every page you want to have, or let me say for every route you want to have, it's going to happen. You are going to create a folder inside of this app, right? And you name it login, and then you have this page here. So if we go to /login, right? If we go to /login, right, you'll see the content of our login form, which is going to be rendered for you. And as it is being rendered, again, I have explained what is happening is that React is doing two things. It's rendering it on the server initially, and it will now send the HTML to the browser through the process of hydration. So let me repeat that process again. Two major steps that happens, right, when you go to a new route is that what React first tries to render it. If you see what is going on our, if you see what is going on in our terminal, where's my terminal again? I think I have my terminal. I think, where is our terminal? So this is my terminal. So you will notice that when you see this compiling, it will initially start this up from it will start it up from the server side, right? It will start it up from the server side, and when it is done on the server side, that's when it has compiled. So it took like 2 seconds to compile, and it ran through how many modules, like 470 something modules, right? And when it is done, it will, through the process of what hydration, send the HTML to the browser. And when it sends the HTML to the browser, then the browser will now do something we call what the client side rendering. But the initial rendering will first start from what the server, right? And then it is to send that initial rendering down to what your client side by sending the client the string of the HTML that is generated. And basically that's what happens in Nextjs. So that's why sometimes your Nextjs is a little bit slow, right? Because it is first doing the server side rendering. And that's the beauty of Nextjs. That is, the server-side rendering can allow you to go to a database and fetch information with things like get static prop, right? Some provisions that Nextjs makes available for us to fetch some things on the server side. And when it has fetched the data, right, it will render the data. It will render the data with React using the React DOM server-side version. So when you are doing your client-side React, you would see that you are importing React DOM from the client side. But inside that same folder of that React DOM package, we have the server-side React DOM that helps us to render something inside Node.js. So when I'm referring to server-side, I am referring to Node.js. So it means that it will initially attempt to do the rendering inside of Node.js. And that's why you will see that at some point, I've said it before on the stream, that our console.log, sometimes our console.log will appear in the terminal, and that is what Node.js land. And at some other time, right, when it has also done that same rendering, right, it will also render some things inside of the browser. From what I can see, we can decide not to make changes at all in the layout file in the code. Yes, we can decide not to. A file where you can make changes or you want to. So the thing is that if you see the way the layout work, right, you can see that what the string that I put inside of my layout, this next app starter, can you see this next app starter? That next app starter is inside of what? This string. This h1 here is inside of where? This h1 is inside of every page that I go to. So now I am inside /login, and you can see that what that next app starter is inside of it, right? So it means that that next app starter is inside of my layout, and that layout will be appearing in all of the pages you have. It's going to be everywhere, so long as that page is inside of what? Is inside of what? Our app, this app that we have. And that's the work of layout. That is, the layout helps us to set up what? Layout that is consistent for all of our pages. Whereas now, the main page, the content that is visible is now what is inside the page.tsx. Does that clarify your question, Stanley? Right? So it is inside that page.tsx that all of the things that we are showing is now going to be residing. But if we want to do something that we want it to appear inside all of our pages, then we can use the layout. So I feel like that's some of the things that Next.js has done for you, right? Pre-baked inside. I think with the previous versions of Next.js, it has a folder called pages. I think I can't remember whether the version 10 thereabout, what the version is. They have a pages folder. And so if you create a maybe home.tsx inside of that pages, automatically to create a route called home for you. If you create about, automatically to create a route for you. So that's what happens in the previous version. But when we get to this next 14 upward, right, we have this app directory, and the first thing that first happens is our home page is powered by the page.tsx and the layout.tsx. And subsequently, any other folder you create, the moment you can put a page.tsx inside of it, it will work. I think I saw a tweet that explains that you can also mix both the previous version of Next and the new version together. I think I saw something like that. Yeah, I saw something like that, but I've not tried it until I maybe explore it and try it out. So now the other thing that we want to do is we have this hero image in our UI. I think we have this hero image in our UI. So we are going to bring that. The goal is to bring that hero image into what? To bring that hero image into this place. So let me see here. I want to understand. So if you want to also follow alongside, I am using the Learn Next.js, right? Nextjs.org/learn/ I think, yeah, /learn. That's where everything I am doing starts from. So if you want to follow along, you can follow alongside what we are doing there. So right now, another thing that we can also do is that Next.js have something called a next image. That is, they have a component that they provide for us that we can use to render our images. So just the way they have a component that you can use to render your link, the same way it has import image from /next image. So if we have this now, then we can now bring in a image into our app, right? We can bring in an image into our app. So here we can do something like this: image, right? I think it should be capital because it's a component. Image, and we can take the src to be from src to be from / I think there should be a image. Let's see if we can get I'm coming. If we can get, let me look for the image. I think there's an image that comes in. Do we have image that comes in here? Public. Okay, so we have this image here, which is the Euro desktop, Euro mobile, and the open graph. So we're just going to bring in the Euro desktop for now. We're just going to say Euro desktop Euro desktop.jpg, and you're going to close this, and you can specify the width. You can specify the width to be 1000, and you can also specify the height to be Yes. I've seen it, Stanley. Thank you. So we have the 760 there, and we have the class name to be. So again, the class name here is Eden. So Eden is for Tailwind, right? And this means that Tailwind is going to hide it initially, right? And I think during the mid block, right? It's supposed to, yeah, I think it's supposed to do something like this. And what else was supposed to do? Yeah, I was supposed to write an halt, right? Just say screenshot screenshot. So basically, we have we have this, and we can save this. And if we go to our dashboard, unexpected token. Okay, so if we go back to the main route, it's supposed to render the image, but for some reason the image is not rendered. Okay. I guess initially it is hidden, right? Initially it is hidden, and when we go to MD screen, the mid screen, I think initially should be hidden. When we go to the mid screen, it should be block. It should be block. Hmm. For some reason, the image is not coming in. For some reason, the image is not coming in. PNG. I think so. Okay. All right. Is it okay? So it's going to be hidden in the block, in the mid block. So this is one advantage of Next.js, right? That this component that is generated now, you can inspect this component. So they do some optimization alongside the image. They do some optimization along to the image. If you look at the source set of this image now, the source set, right? I don't know what this means though, but definitely they're doing some magic around the image right there, and it's giving us, like, I think when you have the big screen, the image is like a very good big image, and when you have the smaller screen, right, the image is sort of like responding to it there. So that's like the magic that they are doing to the image, and that's why, like, another advantage that you have with Next.js is that if you have a app that has plenty images, right, you know, they would give you this provision for all your image right there. So you just need to pass the image to the Next.js. You need to pass it to the Next.js component, and yeah, you're good, right? Everything works that way. So if we want to know more about it, we can always check the documentation to understand how next image works. Where's the next Here's my browser. We can check the documentation for next image, next image documentation. So they have some optimization that they are doing with the next image for you right there. So if you want to read more about it, these are some of the props that you can. These are some of the props that you can pass. You can pass a loader, right? You can pass sizes. You can pass different values, and you can pass on load, on error, blur data, image. I mean, this is good, right? Because for the developers, you don't have to bother about optimizing your image per se like that, because the Next.js is just going to optimize everything for you. So that is the beautiful advantage right there. I think you can also specify your max width. You can specify the sizes you want by yourself. You can specify the size you want by yourself there. So this explains the deeper into what the next image component does, right? So now the next thing we're going to also learn is to we're going to create another page. Another page that we want to create is the dashboard page. So we want to create, this is the dashboard page. Okay, this is the dashboard. Inside of the dashboard, I think we have the dashboard. So we have page dashboard inside of this place as well. So let's go to /dashboard to also see what we have inside of the dashboard. Dashboard. So if you check this dashboard now, we have what do we have here? We have this Nextjs data, this dashboard 101. I know that the dashboard 101 is coming from the layout of the dashboard, right? This is coming from the layout of the dashboard. I can take that out. So we have this right there. And we can just leave this there, just leave dashboard here. And we have the dashboard supposed to have a layout? Yeah, so the dashboard also has its own layout, so that if it has subsequent pages inside, they will also have their own layout, like the layout. So if dashboard has another child, now let's say dashboard has another child inside that you want, maybe you want to show dashboard for like for some users, you want to show the admin a different dashboard, and you want to show like some other set of people dashboard. So you can also create another layout that would now be applied downward to every sub page that is under the dashboard. And that's, I feel like that's the advantage of that layout. So if your page does not need a layout, you probably don't need to create the layout.tsx. You only create the layout.tsx if your page would need that layout. I feel like that's like the, say, if we save this and refresh this now, the dashboard, yeah, I can take out, or let's just leave it for now. Then we sort of understand it. So I will need a page for invoice. I will need another page for customers. I'll need a page for invoice, and I'll need a page for customers. So I can go ahead and those invoice and customers, they are inside of our what? Inside of our so here we have invoice / page.tsx. And we can export, you can do a function. Let's just copy something so that I don't have to do too much. I'll just copy this whole thing. So we can go to the page.tsx here, right? We are not using this here. And you can see that here is the invoice, right? This is the invoice. Exactly. So you can see that for the invoice, I created a folder, and then we now created the page.tsx inside for us to use. And that is the idea. So I think it's invoices with S. It's supposed to be invoices with S. So we can rename this to invoices with S. But definitely still the same thing, right? If we narrow down to invoices, so is our server done? So we have invoices, and you would see our invoice. You should see our invoice div. The default export. Oh, I just created a component. I did not do the export default. So export default page, and yeah, this should work. We should have our invoices working. So after the invoices is working, so you can see now that the idea is that we have our Nextjs layout, and after our Nextjs layout, we have our dashboard layout, and after the dashboard layout, we are now inside of the invoice page in itself. So if you want the invoice to also have layout, you will then go ahead and create layout.tsx for your invoice, right? And that would be like the layout for your what? For your invoice. So we're going to create invoices, and what's the other one that we are creating? Invoices, and what's the name of the other one I'm supposed to create? Invoice and customers. Invoice and customers. Hmm. So inside of this as well, I could just copy and paste this here, or let's just right click, duplicate this whole thing, and we can then call these customers, and everything should also work. We should also have a customer route that is working as well. So we'll have a customer route that is working as well. However, there's a problem that I'm noticing with the app that we're building. There's a problem. The layout of what's it called? The layout of the parent is not following along. The layout of the main thing is not following along. I'm just noticing that the layout of the main thing is not following along. Well, because that's interesting. Is this supposed to be inside of the dash? I mean, this is inside of the dashboard. So, so the sidebar, yeah, it is working. Is it working? Yeah, but there's a layout inside of our dashboard. There's this, except if I've not. So there's this sidebar that we have. Where's the sidebar? there's a sidebar that we have inside of, let me reduce this again. Inside of the layout of our dashboard is, we have this page. Okay, I get it. So now this sidebar is not supposed to be here. The sidebar is supposed to be inside of the layout. I think so. I'm not sure, but that's what my brain is pointing to, so that it can pass down. Not sure if this is what is supposed to be here, but let's just do this. So I mean, I can definitely do without this now. And inside of this, we can do import sidebar. We're taking the sidebar, side nav, sorry, from, or side nav is inside of the UI. Right, inside the side nav is inside of the UI. So we have the side nav inside of the art / app / UI / sidebar / dashboard / side nav. And I think if we save this, the side nav should now come alongside with all that we have. So something is still missing, but I can still figure that out. So we are inside the, let's change this to customers. Inside of this to customers, and we have this working right here. The inside of my side nav, the side nav is not doing the right things here. I think it needs some CSS though, but the general CSS is not being applied in here. It's not being applied in here. So let me check the documentation again to see whether we're doing the right thing. So Nextjs learn, we have something here. So inside of, yeah, we have the global CSS inside of the layout. We have the global CSS inside of the layout. Global CSS, yeah, we have the global CSS inside of the layout. Then after that, inside your global.css, you should make sure you have global.css, make sure you have base component and utilities, right? So we have that. Then inside of the page.tsx, yeah, all these are here. Inside of the page.tsx, app.tsx, right? I think we're good. Yeah, we've added this inside the font.ts. Font.ts. Yeah, we added Inter and Lusitania. All right. Inside the practice, we have, yeah, we added the secondary, the Lusitania. Yeah, Lusitania. Inside the page.tsx. 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 So we can bring in Lusitania and use the Lusitania there as well. Okay. Something is missing somewhere. Okay, okay. I bet that this is what is missing. So I'll probably just copy this whole thing and put this inside the layout of the dashboard. The layout of the dashboard. And so we have export default layout, right? And you specify the type of the React component. And we have this div here, which is the flex, the height, the flex column. Yeah, I guess this is what is missing then. So what this means is flex is going to be applied on this div, right? This h is 100 view height, and flex column is also applied. Then we have a media query of flex direction to be row, and yeah, overflow hidden. So yeah, I think now then we should have, okay, so this is what I was saying, that everything is stacked up like this, and then we have this here. I can take out the Nextjs route there. We can take this out as well. We can take this out, and everything works fine. Yeah, I was trying to undo. What did I do here? And we have everything. Bam, 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 bam. So basically, that is all of that. So the next set of things that we are supposed to do is set up the dashboard page. And I think we did set up the dashboard page. And inside of the dashboard page, we are supposed to set up customers and invoice. We've done that. And the next thing would have been to, in chapter 3, you imported inter font into your layout here as a reminder. Yeah, we did this already, right? Into the root layout. So the root, this is called a root layout and is required. Any UI you add to the root layout will be shared across all pages in the application. You can use the root layout to modify your HTML and body tags and add metadata. You will learn more about metadata in the later chapters. Okay. Okay. So we can definitely move to the next thing there. So the next thing is to do how to use the next link component, how to show an active link, and how to use the use path name hook, and how navigation works in Nextjs. Okay. So in Next.js, you can use the link component to link between pages in your application. Yeah, definitely. So inside of our dashboard, we have a nav link. Inside of our UI dashboard, you have this nav link. Okay. So we want the navigation link to be done with the import link from next link. And map the links to display the side navigation depending on the size of the application. Okay, so this is the nav links here. You have the link here. So instead of it returning an A, so the problem with using the A here is the anchor tag here is that the anchor tag is not built, is not optimized. So when we say it's not optimized, it means that it has some behavior of reloading the whole resources, but the link component now has some optimization that they have done to the link component, right? So what we can do is just replace inside of this, just replace this A with the link, just replace this with a link, and everything should work perfectly well. So when you now refresh our page, if we refresh our page, we should now have something that, like when you click on any of the links, it should not refresh the page. Can you see this now? So before, if we did not, when we did not have this link now, when we had the A tag and we refresh each of those links, so you saw that small delay, right? So but with the link coming in now, with the link component coming in, so the link again is built by Nextjs, right, to help us to do some cool stuff right there. So I mean, they just built a lot of cool things inside their project easily right there. So yeah, very cool there. So the next thing would have been to what's the next thing they want us to do? So it does, so this is the advantage here. It does like automatic code splitting and prefetching, right? To improve the navigation experience, Next.js automatically code split your application by route segment. This is different from traditional React single page application, right? Where the browser loads all the application code on initial load. So by splitting the codes by route means that pages becomes isolated. That is, if a page throws an error, the rest of the application will still work. So that's like the beautiful thing that they are doing there. Furthermore, in production, whether the link component appears in the browser's viewport, Next.js automatically prefetch the code for the linked route in the background by the time the user click on the link. I think I've seen this in React in Gatsby before. I think this happens on my personal website. If you go to my personal website there, you can, if you inspect and go to the network tab. Where's the network tab? And where's the, so do you notice as I'm clicking on, as you over on each of the links, it prefetches those pages, especially the data that it needs to power those pages. And that's like a cool feature, right? It's a cool feature because it helps you in a way that your app does not need to like load all the information it needs at a go. right? Because of that cool behavior. So it can only just render like the necessary things, right? Again, when you refresh this, it only renders like the necessary things. It renders the necessary things there, and you can clear all of these. And the moment you go to this, it has fetched for writing. So the data that you need for writing page to work, it has fetched it. So by the time you are now clicking on writing, it is going there instantly. The same thing is if you go to portfolio, right? It will prefetch the data that you need for portfolio. So this blog here uses Gatsby behind the scene, but it's the same process of code splitting, right? And they are cool stuff, right, to improve performance of your JS application right there. So I mean, that's what that does. Then another thing is that we can show active links by using this hook, right? I think I could just copy this hook, bring this hook. And another thing is there is this use client here. So they ask us to introduce this use client. My understanding of use client is that what happens with use client is that use client works in a way that if you put use client on the top of this, if we put use client on the top of this, use client, so this will only the content of this page will only run in the client. The content of this page will only work in the client. I think so. So it will not, instead of it loading on the browser, it will no longer load on the browser. It will only load on the client. It will only load on the client. And they ask us to also import something from use part, next navigation. So what do we do with the use part? Do you know how hooks work? Hmm. Maybe I should ask Stanley, do you know what how hook works? Hooks definitely works before you do your return. Majorly, like before we do the return, that's when we kind of like use you can use your hook, right? You can't use your hook inside of your return. So this will get the current path that we are in, and when it gets the current path, we could just say that let's just call it path. Let's call it path. Okay, let's call it path name, and path name. Let's also import the CLX import the CLX from class X, right? I think it's a class from this, and we want to determine some. We want to write if name is active. We want to write some. So if the class name is active, we want to add this. We want to add this. We want to add this CSS, the background sky of 100 and the text blue of 600 when we are in the active part. So let's see. I think we're able to do this. So let's just, the way this works is we can cut this whole thing and we can do CLX of everything here. No, this should not be how to use it. This should be how to use it. Should not be able to use it. So this is going to be a curly bracket here, and then we're going to do CLCX of the old thing that we copied, right? And we then want to do something like this. Yeah, we want to do something like this. So I guess what this is going to now do is that, so because we are in the customer route, then this CSS is applied on the customer, on the active customer. So this is being applied on the current. So I want to console.log. This part name, yeah, so that we can see. No. Wrap down console.log. So this way, it will only be logged in the browser. I think so. It will only be logged in the browser. Come on. Should only be logged in the browser. So you can see that the part name is /data dashboard. So if we are in the dashboard route, it will it's logging it twice. Is it logging it in the customer as well? Because I know it's logging inside TSX and it's logging inside customers. Okay. So we can, with our active, with this active part now, this, we know the current part, and based on the current part, right, you are checking if the current part is the same thing as the URL of the navigation link, then change the color, change the background color to be, I think the background color, this brings in background color, and it brings in background color, and it brings in text color as well, just your normal color. It brings in your normal color right there. Another thing is, let's see what's the other thing I was supposed to do. Before you can continue, we need to set up our database, and this is what will show us like some of the superpowers of Nextjs right there. So we can use, Vercel has a Postgres database that is set up. If you're already familiar with Postgres, you can use your own provider. I don't have any database installed on this laptop. What do I do? What do I do? Well, let's use Vercel so that we can just, let's do Vercel. Uh, so we can log in to this place. So we are trying to set up a database. And we will be using Vercel has a database. I don't even know Vercel has a database provision. How do we use the database provision available for us? So we deploy the project to Vercel, and once the project has been deployed, the next is to set up a database. Click on continue to dashboard, select the storage. We can create a Postgres. Okay. So let's just put everything on GitHub. That's the first step. The first step is to put everything on GitHub. Think I, I can, or we can create another terminal. Yes, I mean it's looking like it. It's a lot of stuff to learn, right? I think that's the major work there, right? We have to learn a lot of things that we have not learned before. How do I move my terminal to, how do I move this one into, move into a detail area right there? So we can do a gh, let's just do git init first. Git init. Git init. Is it hyphen init, or I think it should be git init? Oh, really? And we can do a git hard. I can do a gcm learning Nextjs chapter 4, I think what chapter 4, and we can do gh repo create. Would you like to create a new repository from GitHub? Push an existing local repository to GitHub. Nextjs dashboard. Yes. So we just pushed the repository to GitHub. If I check that, we just pushed this to GitHub, and we should have this whole thing on GitHub now. GitHub. Nextjs dashboard. Yeah. So this is everything here. and we're supposed to host this to Vercel, right? Let's just add a new project. Let's do the deploy. And so we're trying to host the whole thing on Vercel so that we can use the database from Vercel. We're trying to use the whole thing. So I think once this is done, right, it's almost done. Deployment is complete. And yeah, we have the whole stuff working. Continue to dashboard. So basically, you first finish the front end before continuing to link. Yeah, you finish the hosting. We have to do the hosting, right? And I think they asked us to add storage. So we're looking for add storage now. Storage. So create database. So we're creating this database here. How you're going to accept, and I think, please, can we use Netlify as well? Yes, I think so. Yes, possibly, I think so. Netlify also supports both Next.js and they support both Next.js and they support both Next.js and Remix. I think so. So we can create this database. So connect. We'll try. I think what we can do is that we can try it after we've done this whole thing. But I think the problem is that after we've done this whole database finish, we can also try to host this whole thing on Netlify to see how it looks on Netlify. I think we can do that. So we have, so to connect to a project, then pull your latest environment variables. Then npm install Vercel Postgres, and we can set it up in our code like this. Okay, so I think the part of connecting something to a project here is okay, this is connected already. So and I think I've installed this whole thing. I think I've installed this whole thing here. So let's just go back here. And I'm supposed to copy this. Or let's just copy this. Let's copy. Let's just copy this. And if we go to this place here, we're supposed to okay, we should create a database. This is the dashboard here. We're supposed to create a database. Where do we create a database? Where do we create a database? Hmm. Yeah, I think we've created a database though, but let's see. Let's see. Uh, make sure you reveal the secret before copying them. Okay. And once we've copied them, go to your this is it's important to make sure that this is ignored. Okay, I need to do some things off the screen there. I need to do some things off the screen. And we can go to the VS Code, right? Right click on, just create a .env, .env, and I think that we can take this out. And so we've created, we have a .env that we are using now. Does our server knows that we have a .env that we are now using? Okay, that's loaded the .env. And so we need to seed the data to this database now. We need to seed the data to this database. How do we seed the data? So seeding the data means that we can first insert some set of data into the database. Seed data into our database. So you can insert some data into the database by, I think inside of, they have some things set up for us that we can use inside the script. We have this seed.js. So let's see what this seed.js is doing. Seed.js is requiring from Postgres. It's taking from the placeholder, and it is using bcrypt, and it is running create extension if it does not exist, and it is creating table. And insert the user record. So what these commands are going to do is they're going to insert users into the table. See the invoice. So it will first create the invoice. How many persons know SQL here? Have you used SQL? Is there anybody who has used SQL on the call before? Create table. If it does not exist, then you're setting the ID, the customer ID, then the amount to be integer, the status to be variable character, and the date to be date time, and you should not allow null. And insert invoice. Then we're also trying to seed customers. Okay. I can always find a way to explain how SQL works. Just some high level overview how SQL works. So here we are seeding the DB Connect, the user seed customer seed invoice. Yeah, SQL is for inserting records into the database. So the database that we created on Vercel now, this command here, this code here will help us to insert some manual data inside of it. So, and we should check our package.json. Package.json has, there should be a seed data that we can put here. So we can do, I think, seed, and we can do, what did he ask us to use there? We can use, let's copy this script here, and we can put this there. So we can now run in our terminal. I think we can run, we should be able to run inside our terminal. We should be able to run pnpm seed. So this ran successfully. So if we go to our database here, we should now have some record in our database. How do we view the data inside of the database? Is there a way to manually view the database? And is there a way to view this? Is there a way to view the data in the database? Okay, yeah, I think we can view the data. Browse. Okay. So this is the user, right? This is the user, and this is the customer. This is the invoices, and this is the revenue. So if we want to, yeah, so basically I think the idea there is that you can do select all from users. I think you should be able to do all from users. Thanks. So this is a way to view all the record inside of the user's record. Like, so select all means give me everything inside of the users. But if you want just the ID, you can select ID, right? So, I mean, SQL is a little bit easy, right? So if you want to select the ID and the name, you can do ID, comma, name, and this. And if you want to rename this one, you can say rename name as, say, first name. So I don't know if it accepts that. So look at it, has changed from ID to first name. Only God knows how they are able to build all these two, and it is running so fast. It's just select all from invoices. If we run this from invoices, so this is all the data that we have inside the invoice table. So you can select and limit to just one. I think you can limit to just one, and it can run that. So it can limit to just one. Or you want to select where maybe status, where status is equals to pending. So these are just ways to run SQL queries. Where status is it equals to? Is it something like this? I can't even remember my. Where status, select all from invoice. Where, let's see, we should be able to select where status. Where status is it is pending. I don't know whether it is this, but let's do this. I can't remember how to do where statements. Yeah, I usually know how to do all these things. I mean, I can always check in, but basically what I want to do is, maybe if you want to select a particular invoice, the ID, or some criteria to just fetch from that invoice, you'll be able to do this here. But this is not bad, right? This is not bad. They give us a very good system that we can use to fetch something very fast. So let's go ahead to the next major thing that we're supposed to do. We've done the seeding, right? After we've done the seeding, we've done the exploring of the data. Then select from invoice, select invoice amount. Okay, this is an example of, I think, where should be in block letters. Femi, let me try it. Let me try the where in block letters. But I know that select all from invoices. If this works, invoices, this works. Then select where status, right? Status is equals to pending, something like this. Okay. It worked. Thank you, Femi. It worked. Okay. What is this? What is this with these computers? Computers can be crazy. What is this? Okay. I see. I thought I was writing my SQL though. Yeah, because if I was writing my SQL, this was going to work. So these are the pending invoices here, and you can join two tables together. I mean, database is another like very interesting thing to do, right? So let's see what this is going to give us. So here, select invoice, the customer dot name from invoice. So it's going to select invoice amount, customer name. Why is this guy disturbing me? Just go off here. Go off. Turn off camalifovacell.com. Yes. So here we are able to do select. So when you join two tables, we want to join invoice table with customer table, and you are joining on where the invoice customer ID is equals to the customer ID. And we are looking for when the invoice amount is 666. So this is join. This is going to join the records from two tables together. Okay, so if I don't put this where clause, so this is showing us all the names of all the amount and the names of customers. So this is linking the names users DB or sorry, invoice and the amount DB together. I think so. So it's getting the amount from invoices and it's getting customer from customer names, I think. So with this, you can really build some powerful things inside Next.js because they're also giving us provision for database easily. This is powerful, honestly. I never know they had some provision for database all my life. This is crazy. Like it's crazy powerful because I can't imagine that they're giving users this kind of power. So we want to start using, we want to start fetching some data, right? So we want to choose how to fetch the data. So yeah, we're going to be fetching the data using different approach. So we can fetch the data using the API, right? That is, APIs are intermediate layer between your application and your code. There are few cases where you might use an API. That is, if you're using a third-party service or provider, or if you're fetching data from the client, you want the API layer to run on the server to avoid exposing the database secret. So in Next.js, you can create API endpoint using something called route handlers. So route handlers gives us access to create that APIs directly inside of our what. So let's just try this. Let's just try this out. So this is something that we can also do, right? You can create your own API inside of your Next.js app. So instead of you creating backend and front end now again, so Next.js gives us a way to create your API directly inside of Next.js. And you know what it means is that since you can run your code on Node, right? You can run some of your code on Node. So all the APIs are going to be run on the back end, right? And it will go ahead and fetch the data, or it will go ahead and create those API for you. And those API endpoints, URL will be made available. So, I mean, and this is another advantage of Next.js, to be honest with you, because you don't really have to do like, if you create a React app now, you have to do your front end, you have to do your back end yourself. And I mean, that's like some serious work, right? You have to be managing two code base. But with Next.js now, we don't have to really bother ourselves too much. We just have to use some of the provisions that are made available. And one of the provision that is made available is the what's it called now? Is the API routes. So another provision that is made available is going to be what you can directly make the database query inside of your Next.js. So when you're creating a full stack application, you need to write logic and interact with database. So you can do this with SQL or use an ORM like Prisma. So example of ORM, what's the full meaning of ORM again? ORM, object relational mapper. I think it should be object relational mapper or something like that. Object relation mapping. So ORMs like Prisma. I don't know if anybody has heard of Prisma on the call. Prisma or Drizzle, right? They make things easy for you. I think I should have some one account with these guys. I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think so. In the early days, when Prisma first started, are you sure I don't have any project here? That's interesting. Okay, thank you. So what Prisma does is that Prisma sort of creates a ORM, like it creates a mapper around you give it a SQL database, then it will now give you some types, some is this Olamide, is this Faith Oluwibe Olamide, is this Faith that is Olamide, is Olamide your name? Is Olamide your name? Because I know somebody that is Faith Oluwibe. Hmm. Or is this a different person entirely? The name Oluwibe sounds familiar. If I'm correct, I'm not sure whether it's the same person that I'm referring to though. Hmm. I think I'm not sure. Hmm. Let's see. Let's see. Another one is Drizzle. I've not used Drizzle before, but I've used Prisma before. Okay, Faith. This one is my OG. My OG from V1 Art School. How are you, Faith? It's been a long time. For God's sake, it's been a long time that we've spoken. Faith is one of my students from V1 Art School as well. She's doing fine. She's an amazing developer, and yeah, I'm super proud of all the stuff she has done. She's an OG. So Drizzle is another one. It's similar to how did you find out I was streaming to YouTube? Faith, I need to know because I didn't tell you I was streaming to YouTube. So how did you find out that I was streaming to YouTube? Prisma is Drizzle is similar to Prisma as well. They create some ways for you to interact with your normal databases for you. So the same thing is if you have heard of MongoDB, we have MongoDB and we have Mongoose. Mongoose is an ORM around MongoDB. That is, it will create a way for us to access. It will create a way for us to access. It will create a way for us to access. A way for us to access our DBs on. I don't know how to explain this though, but I feel like maybe one of these days I can find a day to just um to explain to expose some things to you on to talk about how you can use some ORMs as a front end developer, because that's like the important thing. Yeah, as a front end developer you don't want to learn too much of database, right? You don't want to learn too much of different things. You just want to learn little for you to be able to build something. So I think I'm just maybe on another, maybe when we are building the real project that we want to build, right, we might decide to just go in deeper on these tools, just go in and understand what the ORM does behind the scene right there. So this is Drizzle is a bit popular now. Everybody's using Drizzle so much, right? I've not used it before, and I don't know how cool they are, but I know that I've used Prisma before, and Prisma is more good with TypeScript. Prisma blends a lot well with your TypeScript very well. So we can run our database query. So this is another advantage of Nextjs, right? Because you can run your database query directly inside of your Nextjs, so long as your database connects, right? And this is another very beautiful thing with your Nextjs. There are a few cases where you want to write database query directly inside your Nextjs. When you are creating API endpoints, you need to write logic, or if you are using React server components. So this is coming with React version 19, right, with the server component thing. So you can make database call directly inside of your React components, and you can skip the API layer and query the database directly without exposing your database client. So let's see which one we are going to quickly try out with here, using server components to fetch. So we're going to be using server component to fetch this. Are we ready for this? Even me, I'm just not ready for this. So by default, Next.js uses React server component. Fetching data with server components is relatively new approach, and there are new benefits to using them. So server components support promises, providing a simpler solution for asynchronous tasks like data fetching. You can use your async and await syntax without reaching out to use effect, use state, or any data fetching library. Server component execute on the server, so you can keep expensive data fetches and logic on the server and only spend the result on the client. As mentioned before, server component execute on the server and you can query your database directly without an API layer. So this is something that is new in our React ecosystem, where you can make direct database call inside of your project, right? Where you can make direct database call inside of our project. I mean, we don't usually have things like that before, where you can make direct API call inside of your Next.js. And again, this is another thing I keep saying, that this is another advantage of your Next.js, because if you can make API calls directly inside Next.js, there will be inside of your React, right? That is inside the server side component, you can make API calls, or you can even talk directly to a database. You know that's like another level. They are taking React to another level. So you don't need to reach out to another API, or you don't need to reach out to any other thing, right? Inside of your Next.js, you're just making those API calls directly inside of your Next.js app. So let's see. Let's just try out one. If we are able to get it to work, right? That would be amazing. If we're able to get it to work, that would be amazing. So inside of the code base that we cloned, I think we have a library folder. There's a library folder. Is there a lib folder? Yeah, there's a lib folder, and it has data.ts. It has a data.ts. So inside of the data.ts, some codes have been written for us. So we have importing SQL from Vercel, Postgres, right? And we also have all these definitions right here. What is the difference between React and Next.js? The difference is that ordinary React is just client side. Ordinary React, as of now, ordinary React version 18 is just client side. It doesn't run on the server side. So it means that it's just running inside of your browser, right? And I mean, you can also watch the previous episodes of the streams that I've done. You can watch like the previous Node.js episode that I did. Sorry, Next.js episode that I did, right? Where I explained deeper. I think the last two episodes of the stream, I explained in depth the difference between your normal React and your Next.js there. So yeah, you can always check it out. But the major thing is ordinary React is it React before Next? Definitely it is React first, because what we are writing in all this page, this is a React component. But in the coming version of React, that is React 19, they are giving us something called what? Server-side component. That is inside of that server-side component, you can make some API call. And that is what Next.js is really using. Though before now, Next.js have always given us ways to make some API calls or to do some server-side related things inside of Next.js. That is, there is something we call get static prop or get server side prop, yeah, inside of your Next.js. Those are things that Next.js have that React does not have. So what those things are, those are like ways in which you can go to a particular API or go to a database and fetch information. Normal React does not allow you to fetch information directly from a database. The normal React will only allow us to use something like use effect or React query to fetch or to make an API call. So if you're writing a normal SPA, like your single page React application, you go ahead to Vite to create a new React tab. You can only make API calls. You cannot make a call directly to a database, because a call directly to a database requires a server, and your normal SPA is running inside of the browser. So that is the limitation. And with what Nextjs is saying, Nextjs is bringing React server-side component as first class into what they are doing, and say we will allow you to talk directly to a database, whether it is a ORM, whether you're using ORM, whether you're using Prisma or whatever you're using, or even if you want to create an API endpoint, we will give you an opportunity to create that API endpoint. And that's the difference. I don't know whether you understand what I just explained there. So we have definition. Yeah. So this is the type definition of our, this is the type definitions of our data. And this is the database. This is the data that we just installed, right? And this is, what do we have here? So these are just utilities, right? These are utilities that you can use here. One of these days as well, I'll talk about this. How many persons have seen this before? You know how to use this constructor, the date time format constructor, the date time format the the international datetime formatter. So in React, in JavaScript now, pure JavaScript, we have these what do we call them now? What do we call this now? We have these I don't know what we call these things. I can't even remember what we call these things, but it allows you to it allows you to the I the INTL, the int L is internalization. It's like a short form of internalization, basically. That thing is in your JavaScript, and it has some amazing constructors that you can use to create beautiful things. You have like your collator, you have the date time formatter. It helps you to format date. You have the list formatting. It helps you to format list. It helps you to, you have the number formatting, you have the plural rules, you have the relative time format. We also have the segmenter, right? Those are constructors in the international object. That international object is something that I should also find time to talk about because it's very powerful. Because here we are using this guy here to format something here. So it creates a formatter, and you can then use the formatter to format. So it will format this time based on your what? Your default language. So if somebody else is on a call and they are running their code on Spanish, right? It will format your date into Spanish directly for them using JavaScript. And you're not doing any API call or anything. So it's built in into JavaScript directly, right? And it does a lot of things. You have the time formatting, you have the plurals, so you can pluralize something with JavaScript without using English. Like it will pluralize something based on your language. Sometimes some language pluralize with s, or pluralize some word with es, or pluralize some word with, whatever way it pluralize things. It does that for you using JavaScript. It's a beautiful API that every JavaScript engineer should know. Very beautiful API. So these are things that we can also use. These are utilities that we can use there. Now, the thing that is surprising me the most here is that they have this data that we have here, and it has this function called fetch revenue. So this fetch revenue is supposed to, look at here now, it's going to do what? It's going to select all from the revenue data, and it's going to store that data inside of this place. And it's going to now return data.row. And we also have fetch latest invoice as well. So you can see it again. It uses this SQL function, right? Alias here, to make what? To make this API call. So this is going to fetch join. How many join do we have here? You have is joining the invoice to the customers. So here, this is fetching how many data? This is fetching 3 data. It's fetching invoice count, it's fetching customer count, it's fetching invoice status, and it's using promise.all to fetch everything. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to work, but it's worth trying out, right? It's worth trying out. It's worth trying out. We try it out and we see whether it's going to work. So you can also fetch, this one is a function that gets user by the email, and it's going to select all from user where the email of this person is this, and it's going to return back that user right here. So let's just try one out, and if one works, we can stop the stream on that node. We can stop the stream on that node there. So here we're going to the cell we should fetch data for the dashboard overview page. So we're going to go into the page, the dashboard page.tsx, and paste the following code. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy all of this and put it inside of our code. So if we paste all of this, so here we have importing from, let's see, we're importing from cards. UI and dashboard, and we are importing cards. Okay, so we import from cards, import a chart, import the latest invoice, the page here, right? This is the H1, and we are doing, this is margin bottom 4, that's margin bottom 1 rem, text enlarge, right? And we are doing this, okay, and we're also doing this here. This is a grid, right? Display grid, then gap of 1.4, and when it is small, we are doing template column, right? Repeat. So here we're going to be, I think the major thing here is now we're going to be using this card, right? And we're going to be using the card, then we're going to use the chart, and we're going to use this here. So we need to first, how we are going to make this API call is what I don't know. How are we going to make the API call here? So fetching the revenue, so okay, we are going to import the what? The fetch revenue. We're going to import the fetch revenue. Import from at API, then lib, and we are importing from data. We are importing so we are importing revenue, right? We're importing revenue. revenue, fetch revenue. So how do we use the fetch revenue inside of this place? How do we use the fetch? Hmm. For real? What const? Are you for real? Is this possible? This looks like magic. It looks like magic. Hmm. I am really scared. Hmm. So inside of our hub, where's our hub? I think something is not right. I think it's supposed to make an API call. All right. The console. I thought it's supposed to make an API call. Okay. Yeah, it's making the API call. So it is fetching revenue. It's fetching this revenue January 2000 and it's not rendering anything. And so this is supposed to be inside of revenue chart equals to revenue, and we should have it's not rendering the whole thing there, except if there is nothing inside of this revenue chart. Okay, I think I was supposed to come here to uncomment this out, and so let's just see what this chart is doing. So I'm just going to see what this chart is doing. Uh, and basically, wow. So what did they use to draw this chart? What did they use to draw this chart? Hmm. This component is representational only for data visualization UI check. Okay, they just used ordinary JavaScript, just cook that chart up. I think so. Hmm. Yeah. So revenue, then each T style, the height, this child height. Yeah. So what is happening here is that we have this whole thing here that was prepared with this whole thing here is just it's just divs. It's rendering of divs, right? Divs with different heights. Divs with different heights. So they're just divs with different heights. And I think this was done with just by adding, by adding the div width. The width is full, then rounded and then the height. You can see that the height is here is 161 pixel, whereas the height of this other big one, right? The height of the other big one here would have been what? Would have been something around Control Shift C would have been, what's the height? 336 pixel here. But I think the beautiful thing there is that it's able to make the API call. For me, I think like that's like the beautiful part here. Is able to make the API call here. So it makes this API call while this page is rendering on the server. And when it makes this API call, it goes into this fetch revenue. This fetch revenue makes this SQL call to selecting all from the revenue. And when it selects all from the revenue, it stores it inside this data and it returns the data.row. It returns the data.row. And once it returns data.row, yeah, that's all. So add a no store here to prevent the response from being cached. So this is equivalent to in fetch, no cache. How do you add that? Artificially delay a response for demo purpose. Don't do this in production. How do you add this no store? Add no store here to prevent. Do I just say no store like this? I just say no store like this. Is no store coming from? Don't know what they are saying though. I can't understand what they're asking me to do, but yeah, no store is not defined. Hmm. How do we add no store? I don't understand what they asked me to do. Add no store to prevent. How do you use no store? I need to do a search. How to use no store. How to use in Nextjs. How to use no store in Nextjs. Okay. So you can import this unstable no store as no store. Then you tell it not to cache. good to know that unstable no store is equivalent to cache no store on a fetch. Unstable no store is preferred over export dynamic or false dynamic as it is more granular and can use on per component basis. So basically, what they are saying here is that if you don't want the result of this data yet to be cached, we have to import from you can import from next cache. So cache, this is this here, and this is unstable no store. I think this should be unstable no store as no store as no store. And we can do this now. And we can also put this here to delay. So we can put this here to delay. So basically, I think there's a lot of cool stuff that Nextjs just brings to the table. Nextjs is a game changer for all of the things that you can really think of. So it means that here it is fetching revenue data, right? I think. Yeah. So it fetches the revenue data. It's supposed to delay it a little bit. You should complete the logging of this. So if you go to here now, at least I think even for me as well, I'm learning quite a lot. This is quite serious. It is a little bit very fast. I thought it was going to be slow a little bit, but it was still very fast. It was still very fast. If you look at it, it was still very, very much fast. Maybe because it is not like a very large production database, right? It's not like a very large production database. But I think another thing that is interesting is that they are able to draw this graph here with divs. Being able to draw this graphs here with div is another interesting thing. Very, very simple and interesting thing to really do here. So at least we have one chart working. We have one chart working there, right there. So even me, I'm going to stop the stream here today. The summary of all the things that we did today is that if you look at the code base that we have, we're able to, we're able to seed the data into our database, right? And we're able to also do something with this export fetch revenue. So this export fetch revenue helps us to fetch data from it helps us to fetch data from the SQL database that we have on Nextjs, right? And it returns data.row. And I'm surprised that it is very fast. I'm really surprised that it's very fast. And yeah, we're able to use this revenue chart here. This revenue chart here was built with this is a function that generates y-axis. So this function generates y-axis here. This is an array. Then it checks for the highest record. Can anybody hear me? I guess my internet is fluctuating a little bit. My internet is messing things up. Internet's messing things up. So here we're able to do total pages, generate pagination. If the total number of pages is 7 or less, it can display all pages without any places. Mm. Can anybody hear me? Can you hear me? I think so. Is it better now? Okay, okay. I got somebody that can hear me. You can check your network, Femi. So if the current pages is -2, okay, okay. Hmm, this generates pagination. This it generates the y-axis here. So this generates the highest record, and the top label will be highest record divided by 1,000, 10,000. Okay, yeah, to convert it, right, and we have a loop here. You're looping through from the beginning of what we are looping through. We're looping through. Okay, okay. So this y-axis label here is this axis here, this 5k, this 4k, yeah, this 2k, this 1k. Thank you, Stanley, for joining. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm definitely like done and wrapping up at all. So I'm just looking at how the revenue chart is working. Looking at how the revenue chart is working. If not revenue, if revenue length is 0, return this no data available. So if revenue is available, then width here, and set the class to be Luciana, and you can now create the chart. So here it creates the y-axis label, and then this creates the different divs. So keys, month, and is doing the, so this is each of the charts here now. Each of the charts, one after the other. And when we are done, it creates, this creates calendar icon and a H3. It creates a calendar icon and a H3. So okay, this is the last 12 months here. Yeah, basically we're able to get this to work. So the next thing I'm going to be doing would definitely be around picking it up from this chapter 7, right? We still have like all the way to chapter 16, right? So on the next stream, next Saturday, I will be continuing the Nextjs um from this chapter 7, right? You can try everything on your own as well to also see if you are able to replicate everything. So we'll try that. The latter part here is to finish up with the latest invoice, right? Fetch the latest invoice. So it's going to look like this. And we're also going to be fetching the card, the different cards here. And what are request waterfalls? In parallel. This pattern is not necessarily bad. This may cause. There's a lot to learn, though. There's a lot to learn, and I feel like even for me, there's a lot to learn with really understanding how Next.js works. So, but in all, I think for me, I've learned a lot. I hope you've learned one or two things around how stuffs are working around Next.js, and we're able to easily connect our Next.js to a database, and we're able to make API calls easily, right? Make a call to the database directly. So next stream is going to be on Friday. I'm going to be talking about JavaScript on Fridays, and on Saturdays, I talk about Next.js, right? The goal is we're trying to understand Tailwind and Next.js so that we can use that to build something of our own, right? I've not decided what I'm going to build yet, but I'll definitely let you know what I'm going to build. All right. Thank you for joining the stream. Right. See you guys on Friday. Bye bye.